Hi, my name is Dan Ariely. I'm a professor at Duke University. I teach behavioral economics and psychology and how people make decisions and how people sometimes make mistakes when they make decisions. It's really a fun topic, and thankfully we have a lot to study. The irrationalities of people is extensive, wide, and we discovered more ways in which people are irrational all the time. So I had a book a few years ago called Predictably Irrational, and now there's a new book coming out called The Upside of Irrationality. And I basically want to spend 1 minute tell you about this book. This new book is different in a few ways from Predictably Irrational. First of all, it has a different title. That's important. This way you'll know it's a different book. No. This book is actually divided into two parts. The first part is about irrationality in the workplace. Really trying to take the workplace and saying, what do we think motivates people to work and what actually gets them to work or to care. So I look at things like high bonuses. What happens when we give people high bonuses? How does their performance change it? Does it go up as the bonuses go up? Well, it turns out it doesn't. What happens when we think about the real thing that gets people to act? How do we think about meaning at work? How do we get to think about how people attribute their own ideas to stuff and attribute their success to themselves? How do we think about revenge at the workplace and negative emotions? So the first part is kind of ways to think about the workplace, not just from a management perspective, but about the everyday life of the workplace. The second half of the book is about personal life. I talk about adaptation. What happens when something really bad happens to you? Okay, I had a terrible injury quite a few years ago. How do you get out of this? How do you find happiness after bad things happen? And of course, how do we do it when good things happen? How do we adapt? How do we change our happiness after good or bad things happen to us? What do we do with our emotions? What happens when we have emotions, and what are the long and short-term implications of our actions when we have them under emotional situation? I also talk a little bit about dating. How do we find the people that we love in life? How do we get happiness with the people we end up with? And also a little bit about online dating. How do we think about this market of online dating? What's good about it? What's bad about it? And what kind of lessons can we learn about it from market design, as well as product design, as well as for romance? That's the second difference from this book. Predictably Irrational was mostly about how individuals deal with financial decisions. How do we think about spending money on different things, and what mistakes we make in our financial decisions? This one is more about the workplace and personal place. And finally, I got a bit more courageous. In Predictably Irrational, I talked a little bit about my own life and my own perspective, but I really didn't know how to write at that point, and I was kind of thinking, do I write like a textbook? Do I write like an academic paper? And I try to find something else and try to find my own voice. After a few years, I'm a bit more courageous now, so I try to reflect more about my own life, tell a few more stories about how I think about things, about some of the bad and good things that happen to me, and how these irrationalities play into it. Overall, I'm kind of very curious about how people would find this book, because A, it's more personal, and B, it's different from the first book. So if you get a chance to look at it and have a look, and if you have some reaction, let me know. I'm very curious, and thank you very much for listening. Take care.